To feed your hair through the beater. The hair can't go nowhere. You're going to wrench apart. You put the bead on the beater like that. You run the beater through the bead. And then you press to flush. And keeping it 1/4 away from scalp. 1/8 is really too small. 1/4 is a good ratio, right? So I'm gonna keep it 1/4 away from scalp. Because also I'm gonna run my needles through, right? To sew. So I also wanna leave myself a leverage. So that would be my 1/4 away. And then I use my hand to kind of hold the beads in when I clamp. You see how, if you look at this, I'm like beveling this a little bit, like turning my hand. See, I'm not just flushing, because if I flush, I can push it to scalp. So I turn my hand to give me that room. And sometimes, like, Amy will scream at me, "Cammy, it's too tight," and then I have to undo it. And when I undo it, I don't use the same bead. I rarely do. I'll take the beads out and just put another one, because I already flushed the bead. So I want a nice fresh bead. So I don't, because sometimes when you flush the bead and then take it out just to adjust, which is why I don't do, remember when I say I don't like to do, what's it called? When people come in for you to push them up, because as soon as you open up these beads, which I can show you guys, if I open up these beads right now, okay, you see that it's flush, it's pressed, right? So if I try to take this, this is how people do their push-up. If somebody's coming in, you see that it's open, then they'll take it, kind of push it all the way up and press it down again. The reason why I don't like that is because as soon as you open it, sometimes the beads get loose. So I'll take it out and put in a new one. Does that make sense? All right. And who's gonna give me extension to use? So you leave a little bit of room, go in between your beads. The first one is usually the most important. Why is the first one most important? Because that's where you're tacking. Kind of like how you're tacking when you're tacking your extension. Go right in between again. And then this time I'm going to bring this and I'm going to kind of tack it down. All right, so now it's tacked down. I'm going to go back to the beginning of this bead, still inside the hair, not through my needle, back to the first part of, kind of back to that front. So my needle can change position, right? Before I was in the center to tack it. Now I'm going to now sew it down. Now I'm going to go through the extension itself, tack it to the hair, and knot it. Okay, now I'm going to then go back to the beginning of the end of that other bead. All I'm doing really is just knotting. So however way you want to knot to make it nice and flush, it's up to you. So I'm back to the center. Now I'm in the middle of this now to knot it. And that's it.
So this is just basically like a single braid.
Yeah, pretty much. Even if you look at it, that's why. And then I'm going to go to the next one, going to the center. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to show you something. If you want this thread to stay nice and flush, you would go this way. You keep staying inside of the bead. Or, it's up to you. There's no wrong way about it. If you want, this gives you the client, you go right outside the beads, but then it makes the thread show outside the beads. But there's no wrong way, because the whole way is you're tacking. So sometimes I would do outside the beads for like my last two, and then inside the beads for the last two to close. So nobody can really see my thread. So, and do you see how this is pushed like that? So if you have something like that, you want to go back inside the bead. You want to put the extension right on top of this. Go through the extension, go to the top of this one, and knot it. The reason why is because now the extension, like I told you, sometimes can be a little bit heavier than the beads, so the beads can dance. So you want to put them in place. See what I just did? Just kind of put that. Is about 1.5 inch, right? You want to cut the hair. You can either measure. You want to cut the hair to be about 1 inch. Okay. So 1 inch would be right there. Why shouldn't it be 1.5 inch? Can anybody guess? Why shouldn't it be right at where the tape is?
So it can dance.
So yes, so it can be able to be flush with the hair. So you can do even 1/4 of an inch is still fine. But with 1.5 inch and you're doing a sandwich, if you are doing a single tape for a client, this goes right on top of the head. That's it. It would go right on top of the head and it would be it. Let's see if this sticks. Right. So it stays right there. If you were doing a single tape for them, it's okay. Right there.
Touching the scalp?
Nope, you always leave 1/8 to 1/4 away from the scalp. When you're doing this type of extension that is going to flush the scalp, you always want, because if you glue this to scalp, and that's a good question, if you glue this to scalp, what again is going to bother your client, right? And you don't want to do that. So you want to do 1/4 or 1/8 away from the scalp. Okay. So, and then you do it. That's if you're doing single tapes. However, in this class, I want you to do double tape. You go 1 tape in, 1 tape out. You flush it in by pressing it down. Now you can also, and I think this is why it's not, you can also use a flat iron to press this, and it kind of create that, it melts the glue in the tape even much, much better to give it a nice hold. And it will just be like that.